This podcast is brought to you by Ironsite. The logistical complexity of oil and gas field operations can make it difficult to stay on top of who is doing what, where, and when. That's where Ironsite comes in. And so Ironsite connects E&Ps, midstream companies, and service providers so they can collaborate and coordinate with the field services and internal resources more efficiently. Ironsite was designed to support everything from fluid hauling and hotshots to maintenance and trades, making it one of the most versatile field operations and logistics management tools on the market. How do they do it? Well, the secret sauce is, regardless of what type of service, every single job you need done is going to follow the same core workflow. Somebody requests a job, it gets scheduled, the job gets executed, what gets done is documented, and it's reviewed, approved, and the data and the documentation gets sent wherever it needs to go kind of from there. So Ironside has spent years perfecting their fit-for-purpose function, making their core workflow configurable to any field activity so that you can lower operating costs, reduce your risk, and be more effective across your entire field operation. So whether you work for an E&P, midstream company, or service provider, if you're managing field operations and logistics, you're going to want to take a look at Ironside. They were also the Energy Tech Night Midland winner a few years back. They've also been on the podcast in the past, good friends of ours. So go check them out. Visit ironside.app/DW to learn if your company is eligible for a free 3-month trial. It's Ironside, SIGHT.app/DW. Click the link in the description and let them know that we sent you. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Oil and Gas Startups Podcast. I'm here with my buddy Rodney Giles from BidOut. What's up, man?
Hey, man. How's everything going?
It's going good, man. We've been just shooting the shit before we started the podcast, and so I was like, let's just start this.
I know we should have recorded about half of it, but maybe the other half probably would have been
so many cool. I mean, one of the coolest things you just said to me, it was like you got to go and hang out and meet T-Bone Pickens when he was still alive. That was one of the things I wish I could have got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet him through a friend of mine and was explaining to me how the Saudis are never going to let oil go below $92 a barrel. So 10 years or so ago, I was driving back home from Dallas to Houston and was thinking over and over and over about, he was talking about, you're never going to see oil below 92, and thought maybe it's time to buy some oil and gas royalties and properties and so forth. And couldn't have been worse on the timing, but I blame it on Boone. And fortunately, I've never sold any of those royalties, so things kind of worked themselves out long term. But yeah, absolutely.
Dude, okay, outside of that, he gave you some bad advice on timing, right? but it all worked out. What was like your number one takeaway from just getting to like sit down and have dinner with this guy?
Well, it wasn't fully dinner, but he was hard of hearing and just, absolute legend. And just the way he took control of the room and was just phenomenal and great opportunity. And, I think he was somebody that really championed oil and gas and somebody that we, really need today to kind of help this industry out as well. So
we need more of that. Back in the day we had him, we had Aubrey going about it and being our champion for natural gas. I think we've got a couple good figures who've really stepped up. I think that Toby Rice over at EQT is doing a phenomenal job. I think Chris Wright over at Liberty Energy is doing a great job as well. Had the pleasure of meeting him a few weeks back whenever we were in Denver for Energy Tech Night. And me and Colin got to have breakfast with him. And this guy is just a salt of the earth.
Oh,
most
absolutely.
Genuine person you ever met in your life who goes and backpacks to a place of high poverty so that he can understand it and understand its relation to a lack of energy and lack of resources.
Right.
It's mind blowing. Like, it's like when I grow up, like that's the kind of person that I want to be,
Absolutely. And I think anybody with that type of track record and longevity in the industry is great to be around and great to hear from. So
absolutely, man. So tell me a little bit more about what is BidOut? What are you guys working on?
We're a procurement platform. So we help operators connect with suppliers, easily get pricing, handle all the communication, automate the award phase. And then really we stop there. We want to just make the simplest process. Mostly designed around the suppliers. It's got to be really easy for the suppliers because there's big breakdowns when suppliers are trying to use systems like Oracle or SAP. They don't have great experiences. They're way too complicated for these suppliers, and quite frankly, they just fail. So we built a really simple, really powerful application for the suppliers, for the operators, and really just connect them and be a conduit. We replace text message, email, spreadsheets, things like that. And really give our operators uniformed pricing that's consistent across the board. When we started early on, we met with an operator and one of maybe the top 5 operators in the country just to get some initial feedback early on. And they were explaining that they were doing a multi-million-dollar water hauling job, I think in West Texas. And one of their water haulers had screenshotted Excel. He didn't even print Excel. It was like a screenshot, including the toolbar and everything. Printed it out, filled out the pricing with Sharpie marker, and texted it back in. And he was the winning bid. And they said, we have to put up with this because these are our suppliers and so forth. And it's just, quite frankly, these guys just technically don't get some of the concepts around that. So we wanted to build something incredibly simple for them. And it turns out to be really powerful for the operators at the same time.
So on the procurement side, is it mostly around jobs that are actually happening in the field? Like, hey, you're getting certain crews to come in, whether it's drilling, completing, workovers, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're having multiple suppliers that are all kind of coming in. Is it including the bidding process, or is it where we post bid and you're kind of going through and just managing that relationship, managing data?
No, it's really just the bidding process.
Okay.
So we're not a project execution platform. We're not a project management platform. We're really a sourcing platform. And we help operators also discover more suppliers. We've got a directory of about 3,500 suppliers that they can browse through by different categories in different regions. And, quite frankly, we have some very large operators that call us and say, we just don't know who else to go reach out to for generators or for, facilities or electrical services, et cetera. Can you open this up to your network? And we'll help them find more providers and so forth as well. But it's all part of the process there. But going back to your original question, so we're doing bids for anything as commodities, pipes, chemicals, up to services like wireline, flowback, fracs, pressure pumping, directional drilling, all the way we've done like uniform contracts, like the FRs and close, and, all the laundry around that and so forth. So it really varies across the board, but I would say anything in the oil and gas purchasing process is kind of what we had.
So I think what's really interesting about this, and I'm not sure if you know this, and I'm not sure if most people know this, but this is the exact concept that Workerize, back when it was called RigUp, when raised $700 million at a $3 billion valuation for, and then they've since pivoted away from that. They don't do any of the bidding for jobs anymore, and now they're more of a it's more focused on the individuals, right? In recruiting
consultants.
Consultants. It's like getting actual contractors in. So they moved from the work to the people. But I always thought that their original thesis was correct. I was like, I think
they were
there's
10 years too early.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know much about them back at the time. But, I think from what I hear and gather and so forth, maybe just a little too early. So
I think it's absolutely needed. I mean, like you said, how else are you going to do this? It's all just
we
a
look
hodgepodge.
at it as most of our buyers are, in their 30s and their 40s. They want to order their food on their phone. They don't want to call people. They like to do things digitally, and they want to make that process real easy. So that's what we built it around. So
is there any kind of struggle with? It sounds like almost like you're kind of creating this marketplace, right? There's two sides of it. There's operator side, there's service side. Is there any struggles with getting all of these service companies kind of to adopt the tool?
No, I mean, we make it free for them.
Okay.
So there are premium options for the suppliers to get invited to more work that fits their categories and things like that, but it's not required. Really, we don't have any struggles with the supplier onboarding. We have like a one-page terms and service agreement that they just click and agree to. There's really no suppliers that have not onboarded with us. It's growing every day, and we've got, I think, 3,500 or so north of there now.
Jeez.
And that's really what we focus on.
Subtle flex there. 3,500 is a lot of
guys. Yeah. Now, we don't have that many operators, but those are growing too. So, that's what we do. We started the company about 3 years ago during COVID, and it probably took us a year until we even did our first bid, and took a while to build the product, maybe even a little bit longer than that.
That's the name of it. It looks good though.
I think we had to get out there pretty quickly and start getting feedback, and we got a lot of feedback, and a lot of it didn't fit what people wanted, and we had to kind of adapt. And
talk to me about that process a little bit, because that's something that I think that we've done, and I think I've seen other really successful like startup founders, particularly in this space, do. It's go to the market, and it's go to those customers, and kind of your first wave, your initial kind of outreach to them is not like, hey, let me sell you something. It's like, hey, I built a tool and I think it's gonna be really, really helpful for you, but I'd love to get some feedback.
No, absolutely. And that's I just read Tony Fadell's book, Build. He was the guy that invented the iPhone essentially with Steve Jobs and then left to start Nest, the smart thermostat company. And he talks heavily about how you got to get in front of clients quickly. And for us, we knew that. It wasn't a surprise to us, but we had to build some stuff first. And we knew probably 80% of what we needed to build. And our pilot client that we were working with to really launch the product with, they wanted a contract to sell probably 4 weeks before we were ready. And so our contact there, who was excited to work with us, basically came back and said, hey, look, we're too busy. We're about to be sold. I'm losing my job. We can't help you. So we had to go back to the drawing board and find another client pretty quickly to start giving us feedback. And all that feedback was incredibly valuable. And then we had to adapt and kind of go from there. We took kind of all that feedback over the first probably 2 years and put that into a really heavy development cycle and released really our kind of new version that we call our procurement platform suite about 4 to 5 months ago. And since then, sales have just taken off because we're meeting all the feature requests that people need. And, I think we have everything now that's needed. We're always going to be growing and evolving, but the platform works incredibly well now. So
I got the chance to see it the other day, and it looks great.
Yeah.
Nice, simple, slick, super easy to use. Looks really great.
Yeah. We like to say if you can't build an RFP in 60 seconds, we're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing it wrong. And if you can't respond to something that quick as well. We hear from suppliers all the time that they're responding to pricing on the golf cart now. On their phone. And before, they would have to sit down and figure all this stuff out, maybe print out some PDFs or figure out how to edit PDFs and, get stuff back that way, but no more.
I need to spend more time on the golf course.
It's the salespeople that do that, suppliers.
I know, man. All right, so I want to know, you kind of alluded to it a little bit before we started recording, just some of your backstory, man. Like how do you get here?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you first that going back to the very original, me and my co-founder of BidOut, Tyler Cherry, who was supposed to be here, but we were crazy busy on some other things. I didn't want to
totally get it.
Skip our obligation, but we went to junior high and high school together. So we knew each other way back a long time ago. I'm losing my hair by now, so it's a while. We both started the company, and he's been very instrumental in that success. But when I was in high school, 17, 18 years old, I started a cloud company from scratch. I had no money growing up, but I grew up in an entrepreneurial house. My father had his own oil and gas company. Skipped school one day without my parents knowing to go meet an attorney here in the energy corridor area to go incorporate, and wanted to start my own business. And 10 years later or so, we had 150,000 subscribers to our company, employees in 3 continents, offices in 3 continents, sold the business to a competitor / private equity firm.
What were you guys
With
doing?
about 100 employees. We had, we were a cloud company. Back then it was called web hosting.
Okay.
And we hosted, 150,000 WordPress websites and, 5, 6, 8, $10 a month, whatever the costs were back then. But I started the company from scratch with a co-founder. Several years in, I acquired him out. And for maybe the final 6 years, I grew the company organically. And I like to say to a few people, we probably operated somewhat like you guys early on. I found out when I was 18, 19, it was cheaper to go buy an apartment, like a 3-bedroom apartment as an office instead of an office.
You do
because you have the balcony,
per square footage.
you have the swimming pool, you have the kitchen. So we would stuff, desk and so forth in an apartment and kind of operate 24/7 like that and run it like a business. So feel like I learned everything kind of going through there, learned how to hire, fire, manage people and so forth.
100 employees, right?
And yeah, absolutely. Wow. So we, after selling that, or really kind of before I sold that, I started buying oil and gas minerals. So my father grew up as an operator and got to see him do a lot of that, and as I started making some money, which wasn't till the very end of the companies when it was finally producing a lot of cash because we were always investing back into servers and capital expenditures and so forth. Started buying minerals and liked the mailbox money. So decided I'm going to go ahead and sell the business, and went out and bought a ton of oil and gas royalties and minerals, probably still in about 10 states, maybe 1,000 wells. I probably get checks from 150 operators.
Did you do it the EnergyNet way?
Some on EnergyNet, some through groups of people that I knew that would buy, and some through, back in the old days, the oil and gas clearinghouse. Kind of before their new resurrection. So I've always been doing some of that and played around in real estate a little bit. I attempted kind of after meeting Boone Pickens too. I attempted a hostile takeover of a NYSE listed oil company called Tengasco.
Okay.
They're now merged in with Riley Exploration.
Okay.
But they had some issues with their board and some personal dealings with the board that I decided to highlight and kind of get a little aggressive on. And it was a fun experience, but caught it when oil kind of right before oil dropped, and realized I'm really good at the technology side of the business and probably not so good at finding oil. So went out and started really came in and acquired part of a cloud business and data center business and grew that over the next maybe 4 or 5 years. And really at the end of that, Tyler and I started connecting, my co-founder, and really started forming the ideals of BidOut and getting that really off the ground. So,
dang, so you did the whole cloud hosting thing twice?
Yeah, twice. Absolutely.
Oh wow.
So
I
think that'll be the last time. I don't think I'll do it again. So
what are your thoughts on this? I mean, a slight little caveat, but just you and I were talking about ChatGPT and Midjourney, and just like it seems like AI has gone from 0 to 100 in the last 6 months. You know, and just thinking about like the computational needs, like I would imagine that anybody who's in the cloud hosting space is like very strategically positioned to like totally reap the benefits of that.
It's all about power. So, I mean, power is such a big factor of things, and like the amount of power consumption that's in Northern Virginia, where Amazon and many others have their data centers, is just astronomical. And so maybe this needs to be an oil and gas conversation where they need to be building these data centers where they're flaring gas. And I know some companies like Crusoe are doing that on a small kind of micro level, but
EnergyX is doing it for high performance compute.
Okay. But I mean, I'm and maybe they're doing this and I don't know, but you know, most of these data centers that I'm familiar with are 1 million square foot. And I think when you do all this AI, the amount of power consumption that's going to be needed to increase that is going to just be astronomical. Yeah. And somebody's got to figure that out. It's not too green either. So, you know, so the amount of power that's used, unless they can figure out some way to use all this excess trapped gas.
This podcast is brought to you by EnergyX. Are you tired of paying huge rates to the big cloud providers? Are you worried about being booted off a cloud platform if your company doesn't meet their ever-shifting standards? Ready to step up your data security and disaster recovery game? Well, ladies and gentlemen, your new cloud is ready. Introducing xCloud, the scalable, resilient computing cloud that is also actually affordable. It's high performance compute for half the cost. HPC for HTC. xCloud from Red Team is opening a beta program for new cloud computing customers, and that means you, my friend. The xCloud is powered by the XMDC immersion-cooled modular data center from EnergyX. I've seen this data center in operation, and it is a total game changer. So if you want more information about the beta launch, go to the URL in the description. Type in promo code BETA, BETA, for 50% off of your first instance. And so the URL is going to be digitalwildcatters.com/EnergyX. So the EnergyX guys, nice little plug for them because they sponsor the podcast, but they do modular high performance compute data center. So it looks like a Bitcoin mining container, right? And then they do full immersion. They do redundancy on the communication, on the power, but they're power agnostic. So they have some facilities that are on natural gas. They've got some that are on the grid, still modular, but they're not doing any of the mega.
Yeah. And I think you're going to need the mega size to get, I think you probably saw in the news article a few weeks ago, Elon bought 10,000 GPUs.
Oh, he did. I didn't hear that.
Apparently he bought 10,000 for kind of a personal project. And I don't think he was too happy with the way OpenAI's turned out. I think he wants to build Truth AI.
Truth GPT. What he's been talking about. So it's such an interesting turn of the events because, he essentially co-founded and invested very heavily into OpenAI. Right?
Yeah, he got screwed out of it, right?
Yeah, and then like something happened to where he wanted to take over, and they were like, "No, you're not going to like take this thing over." And then that kind of soured the relationship, and then very quickly he's gone on to say, "I want to go create something that doesn't have."
Well, it's interesting
sort of
too.
bias.
Like they created, a nonprofit, like a 501c3, is the way
they reverted back to being a for-profit.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And Elon's, I think, upset about his original donation, maybe. So,
he thought it was supposed to be completely open source, which is exactly what he's doing with Twitter, right?
Right.
I don't know if you saw, he open sourced the algorithm. He was like, here's exactly how we weight likes versus retweets versus engagement to see how things actually play into the algorithm. So
no, I think it's great to have that transparency.
Yeah.
So, but that's interesting. Yeah. I think the whole OpenAI is going to really revolutionize a lot of industries. It'll be interesting how it all plays out. I mean, you and I were talking about the law, about the legal side of things.
It's just so integral already. It's so integral to my daily workflow.
Yeah.
With like everything, from writing emails to coming up with ideas to, there's certain things that I'm just significantly better at than OpenAI, but most things it's better at than me.
Oh, of course.
You know?
Yeah, I regularly paste emails in and say, polish this up. And it spits me back a lot nicer email.
Or if you're like, oh man, I've had too much to drink on a Saturday, and you're like, I need to send this out, and you're like, ChatGPT, write something professional, please.
Exactly.
So, all right. So getting back to BidOut. So you alluded to, you and Tyler kind of coming up with this concept. How did that come about? Was that through just kind of your oil and gas exposure of you like realizing that, or did he come?
Yeah, it was more so Tyler that probably came to me with the idea. Okay. It was definitely Tyler that came to me with the idea. And just, he was running a division of Swiftwater, water transfer company that's now owned by Tetra. Okay. And, he was explaining to me that, he gets all these different bid formats from different operators all the time, and they're very, time consuming for him, and there's got to be a better process. And so we looked at the markets. There's, a couple large players and like Oracle and SAP and so forth, but I think they do it very bad, and it's not easy to use on either side of the equation. And we wanted to build something that was really more like the industry standard going forward, and really looked at it as a network effect. And we knew early on building a true platform network, connecting suppliers and operators is going to be really hard. And, it's almost like you're building two companies, and it makes the job so much harder. But, we also look at it as, if it's difficult, that's something that we want to do. We also looked at the industry as, I knew a lot about oil and gas. But I don't think people are graduating Stanford University and saying, let's go build a oil and gas software company.
It's got to come from us.
And so it's got to come from within. We are incredibly focused on just the oil and gas industry. We get asked all the time, can y'all do this for our business that is on the general contracting side or on the renewable side? We built a whole platform around oil and gas, all the vernacular and everything within the platform.
The marketplace itself is.
So we don't have any interest in swaying from that. And I think the operators appreciate that because it's so familiar to their users and so easy to use. But,
Well, what's in your feedback process, you alluded to this a little bit earlier, what's some of the key functionality that is absolutely crucial to making this whole thing work?
It's really letting them create a very standardized format. Part of the process is somebody will create, let's say, a 30 line item bid, and some suppliers will respond to 22 of the line items. Some of them will manipulate the spreadsheet and remove half the line items and or change the SKUs to different products that are similar. And at the end of the day, these operators, we have some of our operators who on very common commodities are sending these bids out to 30 suppliers. So they're taking these 30 different bid submissions, and they're all in different formats. They've all been heavily chopped and modified around, and it's really hard for them to analyze across the board. Yeah, true apples to apples comparison. So, but because it's doing a very standardized process, they're able to evaluate the bids faster. A lot of our very high transactional operators, some of the buyers are sending 15 to 20 bids out a day, and different services, different products, and so when the bids come back in different formats, they can't really manage that. The other thing we do is, I think we really automate the communications, the reminders, we have a chat functionality that's tied to each individual bid. So all the communication contained for that bid, whether it be a questions or clarification, is siloed within the bid. So if a year from now, accounting needs to go look and see what went on here, or changes, they've got all the communication there. It also creates a lot of transparency for the organization. There's a lot of operators are concerned about certain groups, whether it be engineering or so forth, sending the bids to their preferred friends, not allowing submissions from certain people, maybe not including those submissions from other people because they
who you go to church with, who you play golf with,
who took them on the hunting trip a few weeks ago, and so forth. So it creates a lot of transparency in the organization. We think transparency is key, but it also really speeds things up. So if they need to send out, a standard, let's say it's compressors or so forth, they can do it in 60 seconds. They can do it from a template that we have on the platform. They can do it on a template that they have created on the platform that's tailored for their company. So really, and then all the communication that takes place from the bid start to the bid end is all managed by us. It's all centralized by us. Most of these buyers are getting questions immediately. They're getting, we handle all that process and so forth. So that's really it. So.
Walk me through. Let's just say that I'm Corley Services, right? And I offer a variety of different things. And I kind of got brought in because I'm one of the vendors who services, let's say, Pioneer, right?
Yeah. So
I service Pioneer. From my standpoint, outside of just bidding on Pioneer stuff, do I have the ability to like explore other things and say, like, can I see other things that are happening and say, hey, I'd love to, I've got something and it'd be great, or do you need to be invited?
Yeah, so all of our bids are closed bids. And
Okay.
So you have to be invited to the bids. However, it's the operators or the buyers have a functionality to enable for us to add additional suppliers that meets within that category. We've got about maybe 60% of our buyers who are open to having other suppliers bid on them. And so for us, we have premium suppliers. It's free for all of our suppliers to sign up, but we have premium suppliers, starts about $1,000 a year. And what we essentially do is we invite them to work that they're allowed to be invited to. And so we've had directional drilling companies who have won, $20 million worth of work from just being invited to bids that they would not have had access to outside of us. And, we had an operator who invited 3 companies, and we asked them if we could add several more to the bid. We did, and they ended up winning about half the work for that.
So is most bids like, hey, this is, you got to get a timeline associated with our deadline saying, hey, you got 2-3 weeks or whatever. Here's the deadline. Here's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Here's who's invited. And then they may let you know, or you guys are able to identify, hey, there's more companies that we think that you guys should be interested in.
Yeah. So first thing we do, we have logic that takes place once the bid's created. And so we're actually tracking if the bid's been viewed by each service company. If it has, then we'll lay off them for a little while from a notifications perspective. If they haven't viewed the bid yet, we're contacting them more. We eventually text them and so forth. What we find is the turnover is so fast of the supplier side of the equation that contacts change quite frequently. So they might invite somebody from supplier A, that person no longer works there, and then therefore the bid doesn't get responded to. So we're handling all that on the backside to make sure that it's being responded to. The first thing we ask for is just a real simple yes or no. Are you going to intend to bid or not? We want to know if you're going to respond. If you're not going to respond, that's great. But we don't want a buyer to wait a week and they get no bids, which happens right now with how exhausted a lot of these suppliers are. We're dealing with several bids right now on the generation side of things. We've got a company looking for generators, I think natural gas generators specifically. Essentially, we can't find them, and everybody's maxed out. Everybody's got them fully utilized right now because of all the ESG side of things. So we want to know that quickly. We don't want an operator waiting a week and they don't get a response. So it's all part of the process there. But yeah,
I love the fact that you guys are rolling up your sleeves and just identifying those problems and trying to get ahead of them, particularly with things like
and
the
we
turnover.
don't do that manually. We have logic built around that handles a lot of. Now finding out who's going to respond to it. Sometimes our team has to reach out to the supplier and say who's the right point of contact here. We onboarded a operator recently, and I think they had about 40% of their approved vendor list had incorrect contact information. I mean, it was that large. Yeah. So it was a while to get that reconciled and get that accurate and so forth. But,
are there certain kinds of jobs or certain things that are being bid on that you've noticed a trend? These are kind of like the top things that we're doing.
I mean, we do really, really well with commodities, pipe, chemicals, materials. We do a lot with services. I'd say a year ago, it was really hard to work on services with the whole supply chain kind of crisis crunch at the time.
What kind of services are you guys?
I mean, we do anything, like I said, from directional drilling to wireline to flowback to water transfers, just really across the board. Anything related to drilling and completions, we're on it. So, and we've got the suppliers on our platform. We've got buyers who do bids very consistently on those products and services.
So I got to ask, because obviously we have our Empower event that we do early in the year at the intersection of energy and Bitcoin mining, and then I also co-host our Energizing Bitcoin podcast. So are you guys doing anything on the Bitcoin mining side in terms of like a service for these guys?
I know that we have sourced generators for folks that are doing Bitcoin mining.
That's why I thought about it.
But I don't know that we've done containers. We definitely have not done the ASICs that I'm aware of. But I don't see every bid anymore. 6 months ago, I probably did, but I don't follow them that closely.
Yeah, you mentioned natural gas generators, and I was thinking about my buddies over at Giga down in Beaumont, and they refurbish these old Caterpillar
absolutely
natural gas generators, and that's like a big part of their business. Is selling those. So I had to ask there, give a plug in for those guys. Oh God, what was I about to ask you? I was about to ask you something. I just totally blanked.
That's all right, man.
I totally forgot. I had another one lined up. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, we need to get your buddies in Beaumont on the BidOut platform.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely have to. What's the business model for you guys? Is it a flat fee for E&Ps? Is it a percentage of transaction costs? Like, walk me through that a little bit.
We would love to do a percentage of transaction, and I think we thought about that early on. But really lucrative. Executing it's really difficult. It creates a lot of friction. We sell an enterprise license to the operators, and at the end of the day, they pay us an annual subscription fee.
Okay.
For the license, saves them an immeasurable amount of time. Allows. I think a lot of our operators, some operators have come to us and said that in the past, procurement would handle jobs maybe $250,000 or north. They've been able to lower that threshold, let's say to $100,000, and be able to do 2-3 times the amount of sourcing events with BidOut as they were to in the past. So time savings is incredible. And then it's free for our service providers to sign up, but we also have a premium model for the service providers that really just gives them access to leads that fits their category. It's difficult. We've got a full-time department that's just handling verifying companies because we don't want Jim Bob's roustabout that has a pulling unit and 3 employees to claim they do all 200 categories of services that we offer. And that unfortunately happens with a lot of our suppliers. So we're having to verify exactly what services they do. We're now showing service companies that have actually won and bid on jobs that fit that category. So you can kind of have a verified supplier that matches that. So if you're looking for like a flowback company, these are the companies who've actually bid on real work with flowback, or maybe have won jobs associated with them as well. So as opposed to, inviting somebody that doesn't really do that work.
I'm having some NAM flashbacks to us operating our wells up in Tulsa. And we were actually way outside. We were in the middle of nowhere. I say Tulsa because it's the closest biggest thing, but I'm thinking back to when we had to get a new pump. It was asking one person, asking another person. They were like, oh, you need to go down to Larry's oil field supply. And you walk into this little shack and they got exactly what you need, or you're looking for a roustabout crew. And it was just like all through recommendations. Right. And our pumper at the time was pretty instrumental in that. Thankfully, he'd lived there his whole life. So he knew a lot of people. Right. Without that, dude, we would have been flying blind for so many days.
We even have some larger kind of majors that tell us that they feel embarrassed sometimes that they're getting on Google and looking for a supplier.
You ain't gonna find shit on Google.
An X part. So it's especially in some of those really remote regions, kind of Wyoming or California. It's tough to find the right.
Did you ever use a Don's directory?
I'm familiar with what they are, but absolutely.
I don't know if they're still around anymore. They were for a long time.
I think they still are. So,
man, hats off to those guys for crushing it for years.
Years
and years. That was like a staple that everybody had on their desk.
Right.
Do you think you ever get into more kind of like Yelp-like features in terms of reviews or things like that?
We get asked about it a lot, and we've got our own view around it. I think if somebody gave Halliburton a 1-star review, we don't want to get in the middle of litigation between 2 other parties. So it's very difficult, I think, to do B2B reviews as opposed to B2C.
We feel the same way. It's like you could have one competitor come in and anonymously give another competitor a 1-star, and then you're caught in the middle and you're trying to be Switzerland and provide everybody with a platform. And it kind of opens up a can of worms. I don't know what the solution in there is, because it would be obviously valuable if you could go and say, Jim Bob's polling company over here is crushing it. Like these guys are and I would put my name behind it and all that kind of stuff. Like that would be great, but it's just the inverse of that. Just kind of opens up. Yeah, and we're working on that with more bids being awarded to them that show kind of activity on the platform and so forth to have verified. So it's there's other metrics to kind of showcase. Absolutely. Kind of like key indicators of success, probably. Absolutely. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Oh man, this makes me want to get back in the oil game so bad.
It's not a complicated problem to solve technology wise, but it's a very complicated problem to solve like in actuality, because you're dealing with just so many people on both sides of the equation. And so for us, it's not, technology is easy for us. Sometimes I say that, but it's really, getting those 3,000-4,000 service companies with clean data and making sure that we get that data from them is very important as part of the success of the platform. So.
Mm-hmm. What's next for you guys? Anything that's still either a concept or maybe you're beta testing or
so we're focused on all things procurement. We're not trying to get outside of the procurement spectrum, and so we like to just say all things procurement. And right now, we've got a long roadmap mapped out. Our clients give us features at times that we're focused on. For us, it's just continuing to grow the team. We've got just shy of 20 people here in Houston.
Oh, wow.
We probably have hired, I think 4 this week. It's getting a little wild. The last few days have been kind of probably our craziest days in company history, hence Tyler's not being here. But for us, it's just continuing to grow. We're continuing to hire. Just evolving our org, and we've got a long ways to go.
Any positions in particular you're looking to fill still?
We're looking for developers. We're looking for sales reps. We're looking for customer success manager right now, and that's really it. But really looking to make a few key hires on the maybe VP of sales role here soon. I'm kind of moonlighting as the CEO and CTO. I think we'd like to eventually bring on a CTO that can handle a lot of the product and take some of that off my plate as we continue to grow and evolve the organization. That's really it. So
that's exciting, man. This has been a great conversation. Like I said, I wish we would have recorded half the stuff we talked about before we got on the mic.
No, I appreciate y'all having us on. We office right next door to y'all and see y'all quite a bit, but been wanting to do this for a while. But I'm glad we were able to sit down and actually get it done. So.
No, absolutely. And you're one of the first people to hop on a DW Insight, which I don't think we've ever talked about on the show before. So I'll leave it a little bit mysterious for now. We'll do a big coming out party of what that's going to be, but really excited about what you guys are working on. And so thanks again for coming in and making this happen, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. If you guys like the episode, take 2 seconds, leave a rating review, share it with all your friends, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.